Veronica presents Part 7 of the AI Repertory Theater's production of Lorene on the Lam by Marie Elena Zuniga. The situation on the bus has turned deadly. Buffington Splat, the supposed deaf-mute Bible salesman, turns out to be a hitman. And get this, he's on his way to kill Josh Montgomery. To make things worse, someone just rear-ended the bus.
Things were no better in 1987. Nathan Johnson and Sammy McClune are plotting to kidnap Lorene and hold her hostage until Mac Johnson reveals the location of his hidden treasure.
But let me begin in Red Boiling Springs, where Gertrude Thigpen has summoned Emily Watkins to her deathbed. Chapter 31. While she waited for Emily, Gertrude opened the Bible randomly. Sometimes she did that, just to see what message the Lord wanted to give her, especially when she needed encouragement, like now. She put her finger down and read from Proverbs. Ill-gotten treasures profit nothing, but virtue saves from death. What did this mean? Was the Lord trying to tell her something about Mac and his life? Mac had certainly tried to redeem himself by taking on her and Lorene and becoming a good Christian, so maybe those deeds saved him. As to herself, Gertrude knew she had few virtues other than being a hard-working woman. How could she be saved from death now? She had to make her peace with Lorene. Gertrude knew that. She herself had never trusted men and was afraid she had put that fear into her daughter. She had been overly protective of Lorene, being strict with her, not allowing her any freedom. It had had the opposite effect Gertrude had hoped for. In the end, she and Lorene had parted company in a bad way. Maybe if she saw her daughter again, she could tell her how sorry she was. Maybe that was the virtue God was trying to tell her about. Forgiveness. Even so, it surely wouldn't save her from death, Gertrude thought. Not now. The phone jangled, making her jump. Police Chief Tommy Purdy asked if she had a minute to talk. Best talk now, Purdy, as you may not get a chance later, Gertrude said, coughing.
Sorry to trouble you again, ma'am, but I just wanted you to know we're still working on getting the results back from the medical examiner, and as soon as we get them, we'll let you know.
Gert wasn't anxious to hear either way. Wherever Mac was, she was sure God was taking care of him, dead or alive. And truth was, she might never know, at least not here on Earth. Purdy cleared his throat.
There's, another, reason I'm calling.
He paused, and Gert wished he would just get on with it. Purdy always did hem and haw, especially when it was something important, like the time he showed up after the tornado blew down Emily's home. He'd stood there gawking and finally got around to calling in some help.
Just got an APB on Lorene. Seems she escaped from a Houston prison, and we believe she's on her way to see you.
Gert's heart thumped a beat louder. Lorene had found a way home.
But how?
Seems she stole the tour bus of that famous country singer, Josh Montgomery.
Oh, Lordy. She had no idea how her daughter had managed that one. But leave it to Lorene to make a grand escape, and then an even grander entrance to Red Boiling Springs. That is, if she made it here. Now that the police were hunting her, chances were good Gert might never see her again.
I know you're doing poorly, Gertrude, but I want you to know the state police have been in touch with us here about Lorene, being we're the county seat and all. They're trying to track her down now since she's an escaped felon. She's likely to show up in your neck of the woods, so I'm heading your way to get things straightened out on this end.
Gert ignored his last remark.
Look, Purdy, I can't talk any longer. I got Emily knocking on my door here, and I have to go. Besides, I may be dead before Laureen shows up anyway.
Gertrude hung up before he had a chance to respond, and she called for Emily, who was pacing outside in the hallway.
Who in tarnation were you talking to?
It really wasn't any of Emily's business, Gertrude thought. But that's the way Emily always was.
I got here as quick as I could, Gert. Now what in the world is the matter?
Emily's eyes went to the pillow.
I see. Well, we best get you some more of your medicine and get that pillowcase washed and find a new pillow. And then we'll get some more fresh air in here, and then...
Oh, for Pete's sake, Emily. Stop your fussing. It don't matter now. I'm about to die, and I have another request for you. Best sit down.
Emily got a puzzled look on her face and sat in the chair next to the bed.
I want you to do something for me,
Gertrude said, pulling the letter out of the Bible.
I want you to give this to Laureen.
Laureen? How in the world would I do that? Isn't she in that women's prison in Houston?
I wrote to her a week or so ago and asked her to come here. Told her I was dying and needed her right away. Don't know what's gonna happen now, but looks like she's on her way here. If she shows up and I'm with my maker, then you have to do exactly as I say.
Emily's face was flushed.
What is it you want me to do?
I want you to give this letter to Laureen. It's from Mac. He wrote it before he went missing. Thought he might run into foul play. Tell her to do exactly what it says in this letter. Now mind me, Emily. Laureen is to honor Mac's wishes.
Emily arched her thin white eyebrows and gasped.
Mac left a letter for Laureen?
Gertrude nodded and handed Emily the letter.
Chapter 32. Summer 1987. Red Boiling Springs. The board went through the saw, Mac pushing it just so, making sure it sliced evenly in the middle. He had been cutting planks all morning in the hot weather, taking a break only to wipe his brow in the warehouse that had little air except for some floor fans. The mill had a big job from a rich land developer who was looking to build some homes near Carthage, and Mac had been working overtime. The clock on the far wall said 11:30. At noon, he'd be able to walk back home and have dinner with Gertrude and Laureen. He wondered what Gertrude had fixed. She was a decent cook and always had something good on the table. If not meat, at least fried okra, white beans, collard greens, tomatoes, onions, and some cornbread or biscuits. It was enough to get him through the rest of the day. Finishing the last plank, he stepped outside into the sultry afternoon. Black clouds were gathering on the horizon. A storm was coming. He knew how much Gertrude hated storms and started walking at a quicker clip up Bennett Hill. A fat drop splashed on his face, then his shirt, until the rain was falling as fast as he was walking. His dark hair was plastered to his forehead and fell in drips off the rim of his John Deere cap. A flash of lightning slashed the sky open in white, and the storm looked like it would last a while. Mac was smart enough to know he had to seek cover. But where? He was flanked by thick woods, and he had a good way to go. Being near trees was the worst place he could be. It came to him that he was close to the trail that led to Indian Cave. Walking in the woods would be risky, but once he got into the cave, he'd be safe. Mac pushed past bushes and tree limbs, wet and breathless, until he reached the entrance. He sat down inside and took the red kerchief from around his neck, wiping his hair and face. Outside, the rain fell like a thick curtain, the thunder echoing through the hills, with occasional bursts of lightning like flares. He decided he'd have to wait it out and settled against a nearby boulder. The sound of steps somewhere within the cave startled him. A voice cut through the dank air.
Didn't reckon to see you here in this kind of weather.
Mac's skin turned cold as he spun around to see who it was. He stood up and took a deep breath.
Didn't reckon to see you either. What are you doing here?
What do you think? You know why I'm here. just happened to get caught by the storm. And how lucky I am that you're here too. Now you can tell me where it is.
You ain't ever getting what I hid.
There was silence inside. Outside, the storm howled. Before Mac knew it, a gun barrel was pointed at him.
You gonna shoot me?
Mac snorted.
Then you'll never find it.
Only if I have to. I just want the case.
Mac balked.
Show me now, or I swear to the good Lord I'll go get Laureen and nobody'll be the wiser. She don't mean a thing to me.
Mac let out a curse word and trudged to the spot where he had hidden the case. As he was pulling it out of the narrow passageway, he felt a venom push through his veins like he had never felt before. Laureen's life was in danger, and he couldn't let harm come to her. He rushed forward in anger, feeling another presence with them in the cave, a shadow somewhere a few feet off. He wasn't sure who else was in there with them. He only knew he had to protect his granddaughter. He thrust the case toward the other man, part of its insides spilling out and around their feet. The gun exploded, echoing endlessly through the cave.
Chapter 33. Rain was beating on the bus roof like 100 BB guns hitting tin cans. Laureen struggled from beneath the airbag and broke into a cold sweat. She stood up, her knees wobbly, and felt her body top to bottom. Head, arms, stomach, legs. Everything seemed to be there and in working order. Splat was laid out on the floor, in the aisle. A guitar case had fallen from one of the overhead compartments and clipped him across the legs. Fitting. If someone was trying to kill Montgomery, at least his guitar was fighting back. Second time Splat had gone out on this trip. The first one his own fault, trying to commandeer the bus. Laureen hoped all this was taking its toll on the little bastard. Tilly was still out cold. Laureen was a bit worried, which still baffled her as she didn't think she cared a lick for that stupid woman. Seeing if she was okay, though, had to wait. The gun. Laureen needed that gun to defend herself against Splat. She crouched down, then on her knees. Nowhere. Her thoughts jumped fast. The police. They'd be showing up at the scene of an accident. She had to forget the two of them for now and find out what had happened and who hit them. Not that she wanted to hang around, but whoever ran into the bus, police or no police, would report the accident, it being Montgomery's bus and all. Last thing she needed was phone calls to the police leading to her whereabouts. Laureen opened the door into a driving rain. The water poured over her hair and down into her eyes and across her nose, like a waterfall. She peered through the blur of water at a black sedan, about 3 feet from the back of the bus, its emergency lights blinking in the dark. She walked closer. The bus was okay, the old dinosaur. Nothing but a ding. The car had a crunched-in front fender that didn't look too bad, and from what she could tell, nothing else was wrong with it. The driver was still inside. Laureen inhaled. Best get this over with. She tapped on the window. It came down with a grinding, whirring sound. A frail woman with bits of gray hair sticking out from under a black veil with something white across the forehead sat there, trembling and mumbling something.
You okay?
Laureen asked, water spewing from her mouth. The woman didn't seem to notice her at first. She was holding some kind of strange beads in her hands. She finally turned.
Oh, yes. Yes, I seem to be all right. Thanks be to God.
Well, that's good. Great. See you then.
As Laureen turned to walk away, the woman got out of the car and went after her.
Wait, are you all right? And shouldn't I get insurance information from you?
The woman stood there, looking like that old lady in the movie The Titanic. Only this one looked like she had actually drowned. Her black and white outfit was plastered to her bony body, the veil hanging like a wet rag on her head. She also had a large silver cross dangling from her neck. Lorene didn't know who this peculiar lady was. Maybe she was one of them Amish she'd read about in prison. Carmela had shown her a book with photos that showed how the womenfolk dressed funny and didn't believe in modern things and had horses and buggies. That was when Carmela, bless her twisted heart, was on her kick about how God didn't mean for us to be living with all these machines. Which really didn't fit with this woman. She was driving a car. Lorene flashed a fake smile.
Oh, I'm sure your insurance will take care of everything. Well, gotta run.
She wouldn't give up, following Lorene to the bus's door. She stepped back, looked at the bus, then back at Lorene.
Are you one of those country music stars on tour? I wouldn't know because I don't listen to it. Mostly Perry Como, but a little Beatles doesn't now and again.
Beatles? This old bag? To each their own. Lorene gave the woman another polite brush off, but she just wouldn't go. She was sticking to her like fleas on a dog.
No, I really need to get that insurance information. Sister Joan Marie's simply would not like it a bit since it is her car. She let me borrow it to go visit my sister just outside of Memphis, and then the weather got bad. Sister Joan warned me I shouldn't take the trip, not by myself, and she couldn't go with me because of teaching catechism classes. And I really need some time away from working at the shelter for abused women over in Carthage. Poor women, the way they get treated. And the other sister, Stelmet, that I'm way too independent, running around here and there in the countryside. And now Joan Marie will be just to put out that I wrecked her car. I hope it's still running, and I can get back to my work at the women's shelter in Carthage.
The woman said all this in one breath as rain dripped from her veil. She also talked like a Yank, not from these parts. And who were all these sisters she kept mentioning? Maybe she wasn't Amish, but a member of some cult that hung out at airports, chanting Lady Madonna and Hey Jude. Although she looked a little old to be doing that kind of thing.
Listen, lady. You seem nice, and you seem to be okay, so why don't we just call it a draw, and you get back in your car, and I'll be on my way.
The woman stood there, quietly, her arms folded across her chest. She wasn't budging, and her expression changed all of a sudden from stubbornness to something Lorene couldn't identify. She wondered why the old bat wasn't moving, until she turned around and saw why. Splat had somehow freed himself and found the gun and had it at Tilly's back. He pushed her down the steps into the pouring rain. The woman in the weird dress stood there, shivering. Her voice rose above the wind with a fierceness Lorene had never heard before.
What in the world is going on here? There is no need for violence.
Lorene sniggered. This old windbag with a cross had some brass ones.
Who in the Sam Hill are you?
Splat asked.
I'm Sister Sarah.
Sister!
Tilly asked, shivering in her short shorts.
Like a nun, idiot.
Splat said, sneering.
What's that?
Tilly asked.
Man, you never really got out of the boondocks, did you? Nuns. Catholic. They pray, are dirt poor, and don't have sex.
No sex?
Tilly asked. The drenched nun bristled.
It's not that bad.
Lorene had had enough.
We're getting drowned out here. What's your plan, Splat?
As it always was, to get to Nashville. But now looks like we got ourselves an extra passenger. Sorry, sister. You just happened to be at the wrong place at the wrong time.
Or not. After all, Lorene had prayed for help. Then a holy-type nun ran into the bus. Maybe it was the right place at the right time after all. Divine help did come in strange ways. Her grandpappy always said it did, like God sending that pillar of fire to help the Jews when they got lost in the desert. Carmela always said it was a UFO done it. Wackos. Splat pointed the gun at the Catholic nun, who seemed right prickly.
I want you to get in your car, drive it into them woods yonder and hide it. If you don't do what I say...
He stopped and eyed Tilly.
I'll kill this one here.
Ah!
Tilly screamed, and Splat slapped her hard on the face. If there's one thing Lorene couldn't stand, it was abuse. If she could, she'd tackle the sumbitch right here, right now. Let him pick on someone his own size. Well, actually, he was shorter than Tilly. Still, let him try it without his gun and see what that was like. Lorene swallowed down her rage and waited. The nun nodded and did what Splat said. She returned and stood in the rain, looking at Splat with a mixture of anger and pity, which Lorene thought was a hard one to pull off.
I don't know what your problem, sir, but whatever it is, God can help.
Enough with the God bullshit. Get on the bus!
He screamed, firing a warning shot into the air, at which they all hurried up the steps and got on board. Chapter 34. Gertrude's color didn't look right to Emily. She decided she'd better stay on for a few hours to tend to her, although she knew she'd fuss. She did.
No need, Emily. Just make sure you do what I told you.
You know I'm good on my word, Gert.
Emily grabbed the Bible from the bedstand and sat in the rocker. This would be a good time to read from Psalms, she thought. Gert was lying still, eyes shut, but her breathing was labored. She wondered if she should call the doctor, but what could he do now? Emily had a funny feeling in her stomach about this. Gert had been her only friend and a good one. The reality that she was about to lose her to death struck Emily hard. Then she thought of the letter. It was tucked in her skirt pocket. Was it true that Lorene was on her way here? But how could that happen if she was in prison in Texas? She hadn't seen that girl in years. All grown up now. Probably wouldn't recognize her even if she knocked on the door. Gertrude was in a deep sleep, her breaths shorter and wheezing. Emily fingered the envelope and pulled it out. She knew she shouldn't do this, but she couldn't resist. She looked over once more at Gert to make sure she was out. Emily opened it and began to read, her eyes growing wide with each word. Well, maybe Lorene would get what was coming to her. Maybe not. Emily only knew she had made a promise to give Lorene the letter, and she would, even though it was now opened. Emily looked over again at Gertrude and ran to her bedside. She had stopped breathing.
Chapter 35. Summer, 1987. Red Boiling Springs. The taxi climbed the hill into the town of Red Boiling Springs, Lonnie shouting at the driver to hurry. He didn't know why. It wasn't like the cave was going anywhere. He reckoned it was about confronting Mac. He wanted to see his long-lost brother's expression when he showed up and demanded what was his.
Hey, what's the hurry, mister? These are dangerous curves here,
the driver said.
Yeah, well, just get me there, okay?
The driver grunted, and Lonnie looked out the window. It had started out as a beautiful sunny day when he left Nashville. Now, dark clouds were puddling in the late morning sky, and the air through the window had become thick and sultry, and smelled of rain and sulfur. He didn't know where Mac lived in town, but he figured he'd stop at a restaurant and ask around. Waitresses were usually good at giving the lowdown on the townsfolk. If that failed, he'd head to the post office. As the sky grew darker and thunder echoed in the distance, Lonnie started rethinking his plan. He remembered where the cave was. He remembered the side road that led to it, which wasn't far off. Maybe he'd go there first and have a look around. Spotting it ahead, he told the driver to pull over.
but you're in the middle of nowhere. That road goes into thick woods and don't look like there's much there. Besides, weather looks like it's turning bad.
My business, Lonnie said, paying him and jumping out of the cab. The driver shrugged.
Your funeral,
he said, and drove off. A low, deep rumble in the distance with a sudden burst of wind through the treetops forced Lonnie to walk faster. Swollen drops of rain fell, one by one. By the time he reached the mouth of the cave, the rain was coming down hard, and he was drenched. He went into the cool shadows and the thick silence. At least he'd be dry in here, even though he was now shivering from his wet clothes and the cave's dampness. Mac had told him years ago that the case was in here, and he had left a sign pointing the way. Lonnie was sure Mac regretted that decision now. But where was that sign, and what was it? The cave was enormous, and he had no idea where to start looking. Walking toward the back of the cave, he found a large boulder that partially blocked one of the tunnels that led even farther into blackness. It was too dark to see anything, and he cursed his lack of foresight in bringing a flashlight. He decided to wait out the storm, walk back into town, and find Mac. He couldn't find the blasted case without Mac, and if Mac didn't tell him, then he'd threaten harm to Laureen. That would make him talk. He had just made his decision when he felt the presence of someone else in the cave and looked up to find a shadowy figure coming toward him.
We hope you enjoyed Part 7 of AIRT's production of Laureen on the Lam by Marie Elena Zuniga. For more stories, visit veronicapresents.com. You can help us grow our audience by rating and reviewing this show. Laureen on the Lam is available in print and ebook editions on Amazon.com. Thanks for listening.